6 December 1964. Dearest Suzie, another full day of flying is over. Today was pretty interesting, though. I flew a full colonel around, and he kept me very well up to date on the fighting that was going on in the area that we were working in. I kinda enjoyed it. We got shot at once, and it didn't even frighten me. That worries me, though. The fact that I wasn't scared. I feel like when a person stops being afraid over here, he is in trouble. But one reason why it didn't bother me was the fact that the captain flying with me did get shook up, and seeing him scared kind of kept me at ease. It is very late. I didn't get in until 6 o'clock tonight, and I was so tired I laid down and got in a nap, so it is almost 11 o'clock now. When are you going to send me a tape? I look for one every day. Oh, yes, note the new address. That APO is 96357. I have a package here all wrapped to send as soon as I can get to the post office. Don't laugh when you see the size of it. It contains some very valuable items. This stuff is 90% silver. The 3 necklaces belong to Pat, Brenda, and Pauline. The little bracelet is for Audrey. It is much easier for me to send it all to you and that you resend it to her. Tell them it is for my very pretty young niece, from Uncle Bill. You might touch it up a little bit before you send it, but I guess real silver is hard to keep shiny. I got this from a dealer I could trust. He has been selling silver jewelry in the Da Nang's Officer Club for 6 years. He has letters from a bunch of high-ranking officers and all. Anyway, he started out with a price for all this stuff of $40. I worked on him for 2 days and got the price down to $15 for the whole lot. I thought it was all just beautiful. What do you think? Well, I will close for now, sending you all my love. Kiss the boys for me. Sincerely, Bill. What I find most interesting about this entry is the fact that, for perhaps the first time, we see Poppy not as a pilot, soldier, combatant, or drunk, but as a tourist. When Meemaw moved out of her trailer in Georgia, the final place that was solely hers, the one she bought with Poppy where his mom lived until she died, I saw what became a large collection of what might be best described as Vietnam things. These were small trinkets, odds and ends, kimonos, silverware, a liquor cabinet, flags, you name it. She also showed me the jewelry cases with rings, necklaces, and earrings he sent her. Not just from Vietnam, but from his travels on the tuna boat as well. He sent these things home or brought them with him on his way back. It's fascinating to consider why he would bring these things home and may inspire us to ask broader questions about tourism in general. Why take things with you? To prove you were there? To remember? To spoil your friends and family with a trinket crafted by hand in a bamboo-walled building on the other side of the world? The same goes for photos. Is it to prove you were there? To remember? To hold on to things that may be painful but you feel so much guilt over that you can never forgive yourself for doing them? I am incredibly fortunate to still have many of these souvenirs, but it's just amazing to consider why he would keep them. Additionally, why would I keep them? Because they're a material connection to my grandfather and his time in service? A period of time that hurt his very soul, that he then used to justify the transference of pain onto the rest of the family? Most notably, I have a Viet Cong flag that he took as a war trophy. It was one of the first things I got from his collection, and I almost immediately hung it up. As a teenager, you could walk into my room and see a flag with one blue and one red stripe containing a yellow star in between them. It's hand-stitched and feels like it's made out of old parachute material, like the VC were making flags with any sort of fabric they could get their hands on. Being known as a patriotic person, it might have been a bit jarring to see me display that so proudly. However, to me, it was a historical artifact. It was more than just Poppy. It was proof of a major international event, one which changed the world. Of course, it was special because it came from my grandpa, but it was history. The same goes for the state flag of Florida that I kept that flew over Vietnam and Vinh Long's Avenue of the Flags. As a grandson, historian, anthropologist, or whatever you want to describe me as, the artifacts became prized possessions and direct, personal connections to the past. But why would Poppy keep these things if they brought him so much pain? If they made him drink? If they made him hit his kids? I am amused by his reference to Audrey and his identity as Uncle Bill. Audrey is Meemaw's brother's daughter, Poppy's niece. Pat, Brenda, and Pauline are his younger sisters. In this letter, he references buying them jewelry as souvenirs. Perhaps he was cheap and didn't want to pass on a good deal for silver. However, again, this points to the ways that soldiers become tourists, even when they may be facing combat and danger. Think about the stories you may have heard from World War II soldiers, traipsing their way across Europe with their friends, liberating country after country. What are the things they took and sent back home? What compels someone to do something like this? The photo I chose for today depicts a bamboo structure with a palm frond roof. Underneath the cover, the ground is littered with wood shavings. There are multiple men under the structure, working on planing wood. There's a stack of finished boards up against a pole. It appears this may have been a woodworking shop, where men are using hand tools. Perhaps one of the things I have from Poppy came here. Perhaps they were just the workers who helped build the compound, and this was one of the places they worked on things before they built the structures. Who knows? December 1964. Dearest Suzie, it is 4 days till Christmas, but you would never know it over here. There are no Christmas decorations and no music. Even AEN doesn't play any Christmas music. But I guess we will have to work Christmas Day. And I guess that is just as well. I would be just that much more lonely. I suppose by the time you get this letter, Christmas will be over. How did you like your Christmas present? Did the boys have a good time? Oh, I got the picture of Billy, and I have to agree with him. I think they came out very well. I hope you're getting my letters all right. I don't know how often they pick up mail here. Also, I don't know how long we will have to wait for our mail. Nobody seems interested in getting it up here. Bob Scott did not come up here with us. He is the only one in the platoon who didn't. Anyway, yesterday we got word that he crashed another one. Another total wreck. He was not hurt though, so I guess he was lucky. We had a pretty big troop lift this morning, but it was real quiet. I don't think there was a shot fired. Those are the best kind. We took in a company that was equipped with big German Shepherd dogs. They were all donated by Germany. Well, things are real quiet. We still don't know when we will have to go back to Vin Long. Take care of yourself and the boys. I love you all very much and miss you more all the time. So, I will close for now. Sending you all my love. One more thing. I don't think you will want to play pinochle against me when I get back. I'm sure getting a lot of practice up here. All my love. Bill. The Armed Forces Network, or the AFN, often referred to as the American Forces Network, played a critical role in providing entertainment and morale-boosting content to U.S. military personnel stationed far from home. Originally known as the Armed Forces Radio Service, this network has operated since 1942, providing programming for American soldiers all over the world. During the Vietnam War, the AFN Far East Network, or AEN, broadcasted a mix of news, music, and radio shows to troops in Southeast Asia. AEN aimed to bring a sense of normalcy and connection to soldiers stationed in remote and often dangerous locations. Poppy's letter highlights a poignant absence in the AEN programming: the lack of Christmas music during the holiday season. This omission could reflect logistical challenges, local sensitivities, or simply the operational priorities of broadcasting to a war zone. For many soldiers, music was a lifeline to home, and the absence of familiar holiday tunes likely deepened the sense of isolation. While he knew his wife and 3 kids were home and celebrating Christmas without him, he clearly missed the familiar sounds of Bing Crosby and the like. Though he had always lived in Florida or Georgia or places where it didn't snow, he was probably dreaming of a white Christmas at that point in time more than any other in his life. The AEN was later immortalized in popular culture, most notably in the 1987 film Good Morning Vietnam, starring Robin Williams. The film portrays the life of Adrian Cronauer, an AFN DJ who used humor and music to boost morale for troops in Vietnam. While the movie showcases the power of music and radio to connect soldiers to home, Poppy's letter reveals how the absence of such comforts could amplify the loneliness of service. Together, these perspectives remind us of the profound emotional role of entertainment and communication in wartime. Pinochle, spelled Pinochle, is a card game Poppy mentions in his letters semi-often. It is a trick-taking card game with origins in the 19th century, believed to have been derived from the earlier French card game Bezique. The game was brought to the United States by German immigrants, where it gained immense popularity, particularly in the Midwest and among military communities. Its name likely comes from the German word binocle, which is related to the French binocle? I don't know. It means eyeglasses, referring to the game's original pair scoring mechanics. Pinochle became widely played during the 20th century, often as a social activity among families and friends. The game's strategic depth, combined with its reliance on partnerships and bidding, contributed to its enduring appeal. Pinochle is typically played with a special 48-card deck, which includes 2 copies of each card from 9 to ace in the 4 traditional suits. The game is played in 3 main phases. Bidding, where players bid on how many points they believe they can score in a round based on the strength of their hand. Melding, where players reveal specific combinations of cards, called melds, for points. Melds include pairs, runs, and the titular pinochle, which includes the Queen of Spades and Jack of Diamonds. And finally, trick-taking, where players take turns playing cards, following suit, or playing trump if unable to follow. The goal is to win tricks and accumulate points from the valuable cards within them. Pinochle requires a blend of memory, strategy, and teamwork. Successful players must assess the potential of their hand, communicate subtly with their partner, and adapt their play based on the revealed cards. Without an in-person teacher, I've had a very difficult time trying to learn the game. I hadn't heard of it before reading these letters, and when I asked Meemaw about it, she was shocked I had never played it. She almost didn't believe me when I mispronounced it and thought I was joking with her about my ignorance. Maybe during the holidays I'll finally sit down and try to learn it for real. The photo I chose for today depicts what appears to be a common space building on the Vinh Long airfield. It has a sign on the outside depicting the 114th Aviation Company unit's crest. It is a black knight chess piece with wings in front of a yellow and blued shield. Perhaps Poppy would sit here with his friends and listen to AEN when they weren't busy. 23 December 1964. Dearest Suzie, we still have not gotten any mail since I last wrote to you, but the prospect looks good for some tomorrow. That would be a good Christmas present for me. I hope that you all had a good Christmas. I am sure that the boys enjoyed themselves. I'm sending you this clipping from the paper because I figured that you would get a kick out of it. This was taken from the Saigon paper. They are all civilians and are not connected with the U.S. at all. The article, from what I have heard, is a plain lie. But of course, you know Bob Scott well enough to know how much he exaggerates. But this article is real proof that you can't believe a lot of what you read. Anyway, Bob is probably on his way back to the States. I guess he somehow broke one of the bones in his back. I'm still not doing much flying. I flew about an hour yesterday, and I guess I won't fly at all today, which doesn't bother me too much. The food up here is a real improvement over what we had at Vinh Long. There's a pretty varied menu. For instance, for breakfast, you can have eggs, cream beef, or hot cakes. I've been getting by every morning on cream beef or hot cakes because the only kind of eggs they can get up here are duck eggs, and I just can't make myself eat them. But really, the food is much better. We still don't have any idea how long we will be here. Looks like it might be another month. But, like I said, it is a break. The only bad thing about it is the mail. Well, I guess I will close for now. I love you all and miss you very much. If it seems like I'm not writing very much, it is just because there is so little over here to write about. But I still think of you all the time. And I care for you just as much as ever. All my love, Bill. This is the last letter Poppy wrote to Meemaw before Christmas. To supplement what he wrote, I think it is fitting to read to you the message President Johnson wrote to the Americans in Vietnam. It happened to be dated on the same day as Poppy's letter. It goes as follows. Christmas message to the Americans in Vietnam, December 23, 1964. To my fellow Americans in Vietnam, and to their wives, children, and parents, I send warmest Christmas greetings. Those of us who are at home, full of joy and thoughts of peace, are ever mindful of and grateful to those thousands of you who toil today where there is no peace. You are in Vietnam, far from the places and people you love, because the forces that have given our nation strength and wealth have also placed upon it the burden of defending freedom, even in remote and distant villages. In every generation, the burden of protecting liberty has fallen to a few stout-hearted men. We Americans celebrate this holy season in liberty because our forebears had the courage, the determination, the will to sacrifice that was equal to the challenges before them. Future generations in many lands will spend Christmas days in freedom because there are men everywhere who are equal to this grim challenge in our time. You who carry freedom's banner in Vietnam are engaged in a war that is undeclared yet tragically real. It is a war of terror where the aggressor moves in the secret shadows of the nights. Murder and kidnapping and deception are his tools. Subversion and conquest are his goals. It is a war waged with political, social, economic, and psychological weapons as well as guns and bombs. Thus, every American in Vietnam, whether soldier, embassy secretary, or aid official, whether in the jungle, in the mountains, or in the cities, is on the front lines of this struggle. Those of you who are helping the Vietnamese people to defend themselves against this insidious warfare may serve in places with names that ring strange to American ears. Long Cot Kien Tuong Bin Ya, but your sacrifices are known and honored in American towns and cities more familiar to you, for you are meeting your country's commitment to a world of justice. All Americans join me in sending thanks, and not at Christmas only, but around the clock and around the year. Lyndon B. Johnson. With that being said, I don't feel like there's much I need to respond to. Instead, if you would indulge me for a moment or two, I'd like to take the time to talk about how much this podcast has meant to me for the past few months. Starting this journey was a dream of mine. I used Poppy's archive for my master's work in graduate school, but had to put it on the side to conduct my PhD research. I had always dreamed of one day using most of his materials to educate people about Vietnam and about the struggles that the people who served over there faced. Over the past 3 months, I've had the pleasure of talking to you about Vietnam, the military, helicopters, and my family. It has been an honor that you are willing to listen. When Poppy started his deployment, he was 27. That's how old I was when I started this project. He had 3 kids and a wife. I have a fiancé and a PhD. The world is dramatically different than it was all those years ago. It also hasn't changed a bit. To any Lowie, Lutzko, Schreier, Sims, Wicks, Dreffer, Vaca, Flanagan, Graham, Etherly, or anyone else who has supported me and listened to this during this process, please know that I wish you the merriest of Christmases. Even if we're not able to spend time together this holiday season, please know that you are in my thoughts, and I love you. I appreciate all you've done for me over the years. The photo I chose for today depicts Poppy standing in front of a fountain with 2 of his friends. Presumably, he's on leave. This may be one of the only photos of him from Vietnam where he's smiling. Note how skinny he is. That never changed for the rest of his life. Lucky him. December 26th, 1964. Dearest Suzie, well, Christmas is finally over, and I am glad. At least now I can look forward to being home for the next one. Yesterday was not too bad here. We had a real good dinner, and we were off all day. Yesterday morning, Lit and I went for a walk through this town taking pictures. I took a whole roll during that walk. We walked for about 2 miles, though. And then, last night, about 7 o'clock, our mail plane came in. So, I got all your letters, and packages, and a package from Mom. That made Christmas as complete as you could expect over here. And a lot better than I expected. Yesterday, Bob Hope and his show were in Vinh Long. I was so mad that we had to miss it, although we are told that they will be up here this afternoon. But they spent 3 hours in Vinh Long. And there are so few troops there that it was real informal, and he talked to everybody and had a couple of drinks at the club before he left. Also, I was told that he really liked Charlie and played with him for a while. So, if you happen to see a picture of Hope and a monkey, then you will know who the monkey is. Well, I'm not flying again today. I guess I will just have to sit around out here all day. At least that is one more day that I won't be exposed to bullets. And that is fine with me. I've already carried 6 air medals since I got here, and that is all I need. They haven't been awarded yet, but I will get them one day. It usually takes 6 to 8 months for them to award air medals. Not that I care. I got a real nice card from your mother yesterday. She said she was thinking of me every time she saw any news of Vietnam, and she signed it Mother. I thought that was real nice. I also got a card from Minnie. She sent me one of Michael's school pictures. I'm going to wait until I get back to Vinh Long to get you that person's shoes. They have them up here, but they are more expensive. In fact, I might not even get them until March. I'm planning to go to Bangkok about the 20th of February, and I want to save all the money I can for that. Oh yes, more on Bob Scott. I might have spoken too soon about him exaggerating in that letter. I was told yesterday by a guy who was down there, and one that I trust, that they counted 8 dead Viet Cong in the area where Bob crashed, so he must have done something. Say hello to the boys for me, and tell them that I love them and miss them very much. I miss you more all the time. All my love. Bill. There are a few points in this letter that I feel are important to note. The mention of Bob Hope's visit underscores the cultural importance of his USO shows, which brought entertainment and a sense of connection to troops and even the most remote of outposts. Hope's ability to mingle with soldiers and bring levity in the midst of war made him a beloved figure. His interactions with Poppy's monkey named Charlie adds a humorous and personal touch to this account. I'll talk more about Bob Hope in the new year. We'll see if Poppy ends up getting featured on the Christmas show, and how I found out if he did. I'll also talk more about Charlie. I know I've mentioned him a few times, but he'll need his own episode. If you look hard enough, you may even be able to find a photo of Bob Hope posted by Stars and Stripes, the U.S. military's newspaper, on Google that depicts him posing with a monkey. If what Poppy says is true, that's Bob Hope and Charlie. Which is pretty cool. Poppy's mention of 6 air medals reflects the peril he faced in combat while underscoring his mixed feelings about recognition. He is considered decorated for his service, however, he doesn't particularly care. Instead, he just wants to get out of Vietnam and back home. He isn't there for the medals or the glory. We also see that his focus on practical plans, such as saving money for a trip to Bangkok and delaying purchases for Meemaw, reveals how much soldiers leaned on their leave. Think about your life. Do you plan trips to get through work and have something to look forward to? That's what he was doing. I'm very fascinated by the way he talks about not flying. At least that is one more day that I won't be exposed to bullets. This is a recognition that when he flies, he's shot at. He's in danger. When he's doing his job, he can die. Then he tells his wife about this. Does he tell her to deal with the reality of what's going on? Or is he trying to tell her what he's facing day to day? Why would he even want to do that? Would it be worth hiding the danger? He mentions a few people in this letter that I don't think he's mentioned yet. When I read this letter to Meemaw, she couldn't believe that he had talked about her mom. My great-grandmother and Meemaw did not have a great relationship, and she could hardly believe that her mom corresponded with Poppy. Additionally, the fact that she'd encouraged Poppy to call her mother was surprising, because she wasn't much of a tender person. She didn't have a relationship with Poppy. Was she trying to build a relationship with her son-in-law for the good of her daughter? For her grandkids? Or did she feel that she owed him because he was fighting for his country? Who knows? Minnie is Meemaw's older sister. Throughout my life, my great-aunt Min has always been someone we've all affectionately referred to. I've often called her the greatest roast comedian to ever live. She was known for her quick wit and sense of humor. Her name was actually Mary, and towards the end of her life, Meemaw would go up to New Jersey and spend summers with her, escaping the long Georgia summers and getting the opportunity to make up for time lost when she married the man in the army and moved all around the country, far away from her brothers and sisters, and coarse grandmother. Michael is Min's son. The photo I chose for today depicts the USO show. A soldier is dancing with a woman on a covered stage. Though I have a pretty good idea this isn't the Christmas show, this is still an example of what type of show Poppy and other soldiers would have seen at the time. 30 December 1964. Dearest Suzie, received some more mail last night. They are getting better about getting mail to us. I got one letter from you and one from Grandma and a Christmas card from Alan B. That Audrey is a little dull, isn't she? Day before yesterday, I had to take a ship down to Nha Trang to be repaired. I didn't plan on staying, but they couldn't fix it right away, so we had to stay overnight and wait for it. They have no facilities in Nha Trang for officers passing through, so we had to go into town and stay in a hotel.
There is a French hotel right on the beach there. That is where we spent the night. The hotel and the beach at Nha Trang are just as pretty as Daytona. In fact, that was a French resort area for many years. Anyway, the ship was repaired yesterday, and we left at noon to come home. There are so many mountains between here and Nha Trang, and the weather was so bad that we had to get about a mile offshore and fly about 50 feet off the water to come back. It took us 4 hours to fly back up here. On our way back, we stopped in the city of Quy Nhon to eat lunch. There is an aviation company there. I saw Dave Manning there, and we talked for a while. He came over with the 30 Aviation Company, and he had to tell me where everyone was. I'll bet Brett is really something to see trying to talk. Do you think you could make a tape when he is trying to talk? It would do me a lot of good to hear him. I really miss the little devil. Well, I miss all of you. I don't guess I need to tell you that, though. Did Grandma get down there for Christmas? She told me she was going to try to. Oh yes, Bob Hope was here Sunday. I went to see him. They made their TV show while they were here in Da Nang. It will be shown in the States on the 15th of January. Don't miss it, because I think I will be in it. One shot only, if they don't cut me out of the thing. It should be right after Jerry Colonna sings his song. The cameraman told us that we would be shown there. Let me know if you can see me. I really enjoyed the show. I wanted to take some pictures, but I had 2 pictures left on a roll, and I couldn't burn any more on Sunday, so I didn't get any pictures. We had 4 more pilots get shot in Vinh Long Saturday. Goodwin was one of them. He got hit in the face with pieces of shrapnel, but I don't think he was hurt too bad. The others were in pretty bad shape, but I won't go into it because you don't know them anyway. Well, tomorrow should be payday. I hope so anyway. I guess I should close for now. I love you all and miss you very much. Sincerely, Bill. Receiving mail was clearly a lifeline for soldiers like Poppy, and complaints about mail become very common in his letters. In a war zone, where isolation and danger were daily realities, letters bridged the emotional gap between soldiers and their loved ones. Poppy's excitement at receiving letters from Suzie, his grandmother, and even a Christmas card from Alan B. highlights how meaningful these small connections were. It wasn't just the contents of the letters, but the act of receiving them that lifted spirits and reminded him of home. Poppy's request for a recording of Brett talking reveals his deep longing to feel closer to his family. In a time before video calls or instant communication, even something as simple as a child's voice could bring immeasurable joy, particularly since he hadn't heard Brett speak, and he knew he was missing an integral part of his childhood. This request underscores how soldiers sought innovative ways to stay connected to their families, relying on technology like tape recorders to bridge the emotional distance. This may be one of the first American conflicts where technology like this could be utilized in this manner. Nha Trang's French colonial legacy provided a stark contrast to the realities of the Vietnam War. Once a picturesque resort area, the French hotel on the beach where Poppy stayed offered a brief respite that he compared to Daytona Beach back home. This comparison highlights how soldiers often looked for familiar parallels to make sense of an unfamiliar environment. Having grown up going to Daytona Beach, I can't imagine that they are very similar. But maybe one day I'll get to visit and find out. The journey back from Nha Trang further exemplifies the many physical and logistical challenges faced by soldiers and pilots. Flying low over the ocean at just 50 feet to avoid bad weather and mountains wasn't just difficult, but dangerous. This journey illustrates the constant risks that even routine operations entailed. Poppy's matter-of-fact tone in describing the 4-hour flight hints at his growing acclimatization to such dangers, detailing how even going home could become immensely complicated and dangerous. Poppy's mention of payday reflects the practical concerns that soldiers balanced alongside their duties. Paydays weren't just about receiving money. They were moments of normalcy and planning in an otherwise unpredictable environment. For soldiers, budgeting for necessities or small comforts was a way to maintain a sense of control. In Poppy's case, it also connected him to his responsibilities as a provider, even from afar, as he thought about the well-being of his family back home. I also find this idea a bit funny, though. The fact that he's over there and still having to worry about bills or budgeting just seems a bit silly. He's getting shot at. There are explosions. And he still has to make sure he knows when it's the first of the month. As a civilian, this idea is crazy to me. The photo I chose for today depicts a group of guys getting ready to jump into the ocean at a beach. I hesitate to believe this was shot in Nha Trang because it has a lot of large rocks. You can't necessarily find anything like those in Daytona Beach. This is the final letter Poppy wrote to Meemaw in 1964, which means you'll next hear from me in 2025. If you're listening to this, I hope you have a happy new year. May your 2025 be prosperous and meaningful.
I'm Alex Lowie, and I hope you have enjoyed listening to this episode of Dearest Suzie and receiving messages from the past that my Poppy wrote exactly 60 years ago. I sincerely appreciate your time and interest. Please consider following the podcast on your preferred platform, and if you're enjoying it, I kindly ask that you take the time to rate the show and leave a review. Also, please follow the project on YouTube, X, and Instagram. All likes, comments, shares, and reviews will help grow the reach of this story. The links for these things should be in the description of this episode. Please feel free to email me at dearestsuziepodcast@gmail.com if you have anything you'd like to say. I'd love to chat or to hear about your stories as well. Thank you for listening, and God bless.